B'Shus Kol HaKodesh, B'Shus Yedidi HaGoyin Shlita, Goyin Amiti. Choshev Tzvi, I heard that you've got to prepare well because there's major Bali Kishron here. Capable, able, talented people. We try our best. Meir Rabbi say. The sugya is a sugya of Shomrim. If we're talking about Shmira, we have to introduce this with a few minutes about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Shmira. Shomer Amo Yisrael Ad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects us at all times. As David HaMelech says, Hinei lo yonim v'lo yishon Shomer Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects us, Klal Yisrael, as a nation, as families, as individuals, at all times. Sometimes it's more noticeable, sometimes less noticeable. Sometimes it doesn't look like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is protecting us. Tosfos brings down, the Pasuk says, the Melech HaDoidi Tzvi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be compared to a deer. Tosfos brings down from the Medrash, the deer when he sleeps, but he keeps one eye open, check that everything is safe. Sometimes it appears to us like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not Hashgacha Gluya. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash, so you can't see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is fulfilling his Shmira. The Melech HaDoidi Tzvi, he still has an eye open, he's still protecting us. The Shmira of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is at all times. Shomer Amo Yisrael Lo'ad, at all times. Haman said, when we were in Golus, Yeshnoi Am Echod, we're getting in towards Purim. Yeshnoi Am Echod, says the Medrash. Yeshnoi, he's sleeping. The Echod, the Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echod. Achashverosh was scared of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Yeshnoi Am Echod, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sleeping. What's the answer? Nodada Shnas HaMelech. You think that he's sleeping? Nodada, he's awake and he's active and he's protecting Klal Yisrael in every situation. V'toy mitzion azavani Hashem. There are times when individuals or Klal Yisrael as a whole, as a group, we feel azavani Hashem. Looks like HaKadosh Baruch Hu has forsaken us. He turns around for a second. He doesn't protect us. And the most terrible things happen in 1 minute that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks like Azavani Hashem. Tastir Ponecha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns away from his Shmira for 1 second. Yibohelon. It's a shrek, what can happen? V'toy mitzion Azavani Hashem, when Klal Yisrael feels that our Shomer Azavani HaKadosh Baruch Hu left us, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer? Hasishkach Isha Ula. Would a mother ever forget her children? Meirachim ben bitna. A mother doesn't forget her children. Even if she's not standing next to them, but she makes sure that they're safe. And then the Novi adds, Gam eile tishkachno. Even in the most extreme circumstances, where you could find a mother who would forget her own children, V'anoichi lo eshkochich. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will never forget his Shmira of Klal Yisrael. Says the Maharal, the bond, the Shmira that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives to Klal Yisrael is greater than the bond of a mother and her child. This is the protection offered by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a Shmira. Says the Chavetz Chaim, we don't pay HaKadosh Baruch Hu for his Shmira. He's a Shem Echinam. We're learning this week about Shomrim. Shem Echinam has a level of responsibility for the item that he's looking after. He's a Shem Echinam. He's not obligated to put himself out terribly. He can't be a Pesheah, but Gneva Aveda he's not obligated to protect. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a Shomer, but a Shem Echinam. Klal Yisrael as a whole has a protection, a basic level of insurance from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But it's possible, says the Ramchal, to have a higher level of insurance. It's possible for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to protect us like a much better shomer. The Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim that a person who does Torah, mitzvahs, Hashem Shemayim, a person who develops a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu of Yiras Shemayim, he gets a higher level of protection. HaKadosh Baruch Hu uses Hashkocha Protis to protect him. And the Rambam says protect him and his children and Einiklach ad Olam. A person can be Zoicha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Shmira should be much better, should be a waterproof shmira, a stronger shmira, says the Ramchal, more than the rest of Klal Yisrael, because he works and he does Hashem Shemayim, Yiras Shemayim. Megi bezogen chassidische Wort. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Mo Hashem elekecha shoel mi'imach kiim le'yira. What does the HaKadosh Baruch Hu ask of you? He only asks Yiras Shemayim. Says Reb Chetzkel Kozmir, Mo Hashem shoel mi'imach. How can you make a HaKadosh Baruch Hu into a shoel who has full responsibility of everything that happens? A shoel never has a patur. The highest level of shmira is the obligation of a shoel. How can you make a HaKadosh Baruch Hu a shoel? A shoel means you lend him something. What can I give to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I give him my money, it's all his. I give him my time, it's all his. I give him my resources, it's all his. Mo Hashem shoel me'imach. How can you create a situation in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a shoel and he has to protect you in the best way possible? Kiyim liyira. Yiras Shemayim. That's something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have available. That's something we can give to him. We work in Yiras Shemayim. We work and we give HaKadosh Baruch Hu something which he doesn't have, because I worked and I steiged and I created a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and I davened properly. Says the Rambam, if you create a situation of a bond with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you'll get a better shmira. Mo Hashem shoel me'imach kiyim le'yira. Ein loyla HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'oitzarai ela oitze Yiras Shemayim bilvad. What's the most precious thing by HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not the things that he had before the creation of the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has everything. Kol yochel. What does he put in the oitza? Something which is precious, valuable, significant. The oitza of Yiras Shemayim. Something that a Yid worked on. Something that a Yid developed himself. I want to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to steig. I want to be a better person in Torah and Yiras Shemayim. I worked on my Yiras Shemayim. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts in his oitza. There you did something for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You lent him something of your own. Mo Hashem shoel me'imach. In that way you get a much higher level of protection. Anachnu, says David HaMelech, we are called Am Mar Isai v'tzoyin yodoi. Am Mar Isai. We are the nation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the basic level of protection. If you ask somebody to be a shoy mechinam, you give him the camera to look after, he takes it, puts it in the closet, closes it, out of sight, it's safe. There's a higher level called tzoyin yodoi. Tzoyin yodoi, says the Gemara in Baba Basra, a shomer who's given something extremely precious, that tzoyin, you don't just put it away and hope it's going to be safe. For tzoyin yodoi, you hold it right there in your hand at all times, maximum protection. A person, if he works on Yiras Shemayim and he develops, he becomes greater and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You gave HaKadosh Baruch Hu something he didn't have. You get the protection of Tzoyin Yodoi. We daven for each and every one of us and our families that beyond the level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shmir as Hashem Echinam, we should be Zoicha, Mo Hashem shoel me'imach. He should give us full protection as a shoel, because we give into his oitza our Yiras Shemayim. We want to learn together today, Rabbi Isai, a little bit of halacha lemaisa, lomdus, in the dinim of Shomrim. So we start with a story, Rabbi Isai. The story takes place with a Yid whom I come to via others. There's a moshav in Eretz Yisrael, literally right next to Gaza, by the name of Nir Oz. Nir Oz is the name of this little moshav. And there's a Yid there in the moshav who's been working on trying to get the people and the moshav to steig. Be more Yiddishkeit there. Tyra Yid, Amot is his name. Amot's from Nir Oz. Had a lot of ashpah, worked hard on the people there. How do I come to him? Because Nir Oz is quite near the yeshiva of Tifrach in the south, and I have children and shvagers involved in the yeshiva and the yeshivas in Tifrach, and this Yid, Amotz from Nir Oz, has an ongoing shaychus with the yeshivas in Tifrach, and in this way is bringing more and more Yiddishkeit to those who are not yet fortunate enough in Nir Oz. That's an introduction of, a factual introduction of my relationship here. Now comes the Meiser, Rabbi Say. Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah is a big day, and Simchas Torah is a day for rejoicing, and Simchas Torah is a day for dancing with Sifrei Torah. But not every shul and not every kehillah is zoicha to have as many Sifrei Torah as they could do with or should have. Not every shul is zoicha all year round to have such a great relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah. But this Yid, Amotz, is busy creating and warming up Yiddishkeit in Nir Oz. So we need extra Sifrei Torah for Simchas Torah. So this past Simchas Torah, he's budgeting on nice olim coming to shul and dancing with Sifrei Torah, and he borrows a Sefer Torah, an extra Sefer Torah, for Simchas Torah in Nir Oz. The rest of the tragic story you can imagine for yourselves. Sadly, we have a little bit of an understanding of the terrible atrocities that took place in Nir Oz and other places. Fortunately, this Yid, Amotz, who's been involved in trying to get the Olim to steig, he survived. B'derech Nesu Pele. Many of his brethren and co-religionists are either not here or entirely not here or somewhere deep in the ground in Gaza. Sadly, Imo Enoiche Betzara, but that's not the point of the Shiur. Point of the Shiur is that the Sefer Torah got burnt in the shul in Nir Oz on Simchas Torah. And Amotz borrowed the Sefer Torah. He borrowed the Sefer Torah, he's a shoyl on the Sefer Torah, and the Sefer Torah is no more. And the shul that lent him the Sefer Torah demands the Sefer Torah back. We want a Sefer Torah back. Says Amotz, I'm a real onus. I couldn't budget for the most terrible thing in 70 years of history happening. I'm an onus. I didn't do anything wrong. What's the halacha Rabbi say? It's chayav b'onsim. Chayav b'onsim. You borrow the Sefer Torah, it makes no difference what happened. You're chayav b'onsim. Amotz and the Mashil come together to the Rav, and we start discussing. What do you say, Rabbi Isai? Chayav Potter, any opinions?
It makes a difference if you are doing a couple or in the Kodesh.
Listim Mizuyin is Oinus. And what's the din of an Oinus? What's the din of a shoyl by an Oinus? Chayav. Chayav. Oh, Rabbi Isai, good. What do you say? What's the Meisa Machas Balacha?
It was there to be laid from.
Yeah, go on. I want to hear. Yeah.
He said that if it's on the way, Allah derech, to be laid
Oh. So they're right. We're dealing with the tzibur of high caliber here, Rabbi Say. Let's discuss it. There's a few angles to this shaila.
It's different if you're using it or the known Kodesh.
Go on. Yeah, explain.
For the known Kodesh, it's a classic onus.
We'll soon see. There is a Ramah. The Torah brings down from the Ramah. The Ramah says an incredible din. The original case of Meisa Machas Malacha, a shoyl is part of a Meisa Machas Malacha. In the original case means I borrowed a shoyl, I borrowed a para, I borrowed a chamor who's going to schlep something for me. I told you explicitly I'm borrowing this in order to schlep. And on that understanding, I borrowed this chamor. I used the chamor exactly as we arranged to schlep the schayra. And he dies on the way. Says the Gemara, but Metzia Tzadivov Amar Beis, Meisa Machas Malacha is potter. The shoyl doesn't pay. Says the Ramban, we have it here in the booklet, says the Ramban, you knew that I borrowed this chamoir in order to schlep schayra. It's your fault. You should have known that your chamoir is not able to schlep the schayra. I told you exactly what it's going to schlep. You gave it on that understanding. You, the mashil, who gave me a chamoir that's not able to do the job which I borrowed it for, you're the one responsible for it. As I said, the Rambam, it died because it was doing the job that we agreed it was going to do. You should never have lent it to me on that understanding. Says the Ramah, I borrowed a chamoir. I told you I need to schlep schayra from A to B. I took the chamoir, schlepped the schayra, and everything worked well. The chamoir didn't die. When we arrived in the second place where we arranged, a bomb fell. And the chamoir died. Says the Ramah, HaRav from the Gemara by Shunra, that's called Meso Machs Malacha. I told you I'm going to use this chamoir in the town of Nir Oz, and in Nir Oz it got destroyed. That's called Meso Machs Malacha. And you're parted from paying. And the Rosh Shrais Gewalt. That's called Meso Machs Malacha. Meso Machs Malacha is when we agreed on a work, you should never have given it to me because it's not able to do that job. That's called Meso Machs Malacha. I told you that I'm taking it to Nir Oz, and something happened in Nir Oz. That's called Meso Machs Malacha. That's not Meso Machs Malacha, says the Rosh. A Machloikas, a Rosh, and a Ramah. Brought down in the Ramah and Shulchan Aruch. As the Talmidei Chachamim here say correctly. So, what's the Beis Din going to say to Amotz and the Mashil? Two opinions. Machloikas, a Rosh, and a Ramah. Beis Din can't force Amotz to pay. Amotz comes privately to the Rav. What will the Rav tell him? It's a major chiddush, the Ramah. The Rosh Shrais Gewalt, he doesn't understand why this is called Meso Machs Malacha. If Amotz comes and asks the Rav, should I pay? What will the Rav tell him? You should really pay. But Beis Din, the Ramah says you don't need to pay. The Ramah considers this to be Meso Machs Malacha. But why in the world is this called Meso Machs Malacha? I gave you something which is perfectly capable of doing the job. Why should this be called Meso Machs Malacha? We don't at this stage have a pshat in the opinion of the Ramah to understand why this should be potter. The story continues. The two of them are tinying away, Amotz and the Mashil from the Kehillah. The Rav says, the Chiddush of the Ramah, really Amotz you ought to be paying.
Excuse me, what is the malacha of a sefer Torah?
Go on.
Is there a sefer Torah of malacha?
You're going to dance with it.
Maybe the malacha is to have it in the Kodesh also.
There's a shimush in using it, having it in the Arna Kodesh. It's sitting in the Arna Kodesh to be used. Shul has a Sefer Torah. When it comes to dancing, we need an extra Sefer Torah. How do we continue? Amotz, you can understand, hasn't been 20 years in yeshiva, but he says, it doesn't make sense to me. I should have to pay for this. I didn't borrow this for my own interest. I didn't borrow this because I wanted to use it and gain money on it. I'm trying to do a mitzvah over here. I have responsibility. I'm trying to do a mitzvah. And the Rav says to him, Amotz, not bad. What's he timing? Say this in halachic language. Mitzvahs. Lav lehones nitnu. Mitzvahs lav lehones nitnu. You didn't take this because you wanted to have the hanor. You didn't have the hanor of shimush. These are not using you didn't use it for yourself. So Amotz says, mitzvahs lav lehones nitnu. I don't need to pay. I borrowed something. Mitzvahs lav lehones nitnu. He didn't understand what we were saying, but that's what he was saying. Mitzvahs lav lehones nitnu. So the Rav says, yeah, but it says in the Mishnah Berurah, black and white, that if you borrow a sefer, you've got to pay. And I don't know why, but it says it in the Mishnah Berurah. Where does it say in the Mishnah Berurah? Mishnah Berurah in Siman Shin Lamed Daled says as follows. There's a delay on Shabbos, Rachmana litzlan, and you're not allowed to put out the fire on Shabbos. But whichever Sfarim are going to be burnt, Rachmana litzlan, you better save them and take them away that they shouldn't be burnt. So the Shulchan Aruch says that there's a pecking order. If there's a sefer of Chidusha Ploini from 2024, or a Sefer Torah, and you're only able to save one, which one do you save? Sefer Torah. What happens if there's a Sefer Torah or an Nevi'im? Which one do you save? Sefer Torah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, what happens? Shin Lamed Daled brings down a Sefer Hasidim. There's two things going to be burnt. Either Sefer Torah or Sifrei Nevi'im. I can't save both. So the halacha says, save the Sefer Torah. It happens to be, the Sefer Torah belongs to me. So if that goes, I suffer. I lose my Sefer Torah. The Sifrei Nevi'im I borrowed. So if that burns, I'm going to have to pay out cash from my pocket. Am I allowed to save the Nevi'im in order to save myself having to pay? Or, the halacha says, Sefer Torah comes first, and you end up paying for the Sifrei Nevi'im. Mishnah Berurah brings down, El Yerabba, Machzah Shekel, B'Shem Sefer Hasidim, in two places, that you have to save the Sefer Torah, even though you end up paying for the Sifrei Nevi'im. What do you see from the Mishnah Berurah, says the Rav? That you borrow the Sefer, you got to pay. I don't know the answer to your question. You asked a good question. You asked a question that you didn't borrow it to use. I'll have to look into it. Amot and his friend, the mashal, go, and the Rav starts being ma'ayin. Yeah, go, of course.
Yeah,
Please, come here.
What happened in this place wasn't Machmus Malacha, it was Shas Malacha. Machmus Malacha seems to be that use a car, so a car's died, you use the Sefer Torah, it wears out. This is an extraneous thing that happened to the Sefer Torah.
After became, it seems from the Ramah, that's included in Meis Machmas Malacha. Ad Kedei Kach, it was in the place that we arranged. Ad Kedei Kach. Yeah, okay, it's a shmooze. I agree with you. I agree with you, but at the end of the day, the Bezdin will say Potter. I agree, but the Bezdin will say Potter. I agree. Sure. Yeah.
If it wasn't in euros, went to Packer.
Correct. It's only because of that place. Correct. Okay, let's continue. This, after being ma'ayin in what Amot tained, he was zoicha Amot from near Oz to ask a kasha of the Ketzos. Nothing less than that. The Ketzos Achoshen asked a kasha. We saw from the Mishnah Berurah Shem Sefer Hasidim, you borrowed a Sefer, and the Sefer is going to burn, you're going to have to pay. Says the Ketzos, I can't understand. Why should you have to pay? But you need to see a Gemara to understand the kasha of the Ketzos. The Gemara says that generally you borrowed a chamoir because you want to use it. That's a shayla. I borrowed the chamoir with the rights to use the chamoir. That's hanos tashmish. The Gemara asks a shayla, sho'ala, I borrowed the chamoir, but I told you I have no intention of using it. Sho'ala le'ro'oispo. The only reason I want the chamoir is to give the impression of being a mechubadik mensch. Going to meet the mechutin. The mechutin should think that I'm a bar nichsa. Mechutin should think that I'm a mechubadik mensch. I come with a chamoir. I don't use the chamoir. I tell you, I'm not going to use the chamoir at all. I'm not going to use anos tashmish. But I only want to be seen. Should be visible. People should think that I'm a choshev person. Says the Gemara Maskana in the Gemara. That's not called a shoyl. Why? Says the Ketzos. Because a shoyl is only called a shoyl if he has anos tashmish. Usage. The fact that I have a knock-on effect by using it, but I'm not actually using it, it's just I borrowed it for some ulterior motive, you're not chayav. Sho'ala le'ro'is, you borrowed it in order to be seen to be holding this, that's not chayav. Only hanos tashmish. Says the Ketzos, if so, I borrowed the Sefer. And I'm going to learn from the Sefer. And I'm going to have Meir the Kano. In the story of the Ketzos, I'm going to learn a black Gemara and have an all learning it. In our story, he's going to have a Sefer Torah, he's going to dance a Sefer Torah, he's going to have a whole Simchas Torah. You're not going to have an all. But the halacha considers it to be, you don't have anos tashmish. Why? Because the halacha says, mitzvahs lav lehones nitnu. So that's not called anos tashmish. There's all sorts of other anos that you're having, but the actual tashmish itself is a mitzvah. Says the Ketzos, how can you tell me that you borrow the sefer, you have to pay? Mitzvahs lav lehones nitnu. So the main anos tashmish is not considered to be a hana in the eyes of the halacha. All other anos, that's already called Sha'ala le'roisba and your potter. Ketzos can't understand why you should have to pay. Kasha of the Ketzos. What we need to do today is two things. Try to fend for the kasha of the Ketzos How can it be that the Rishonim tell us you borrow the sefer, you have to pay? Why is it different than Shal Ale Roispa? And we need to understand the Ramah's opinion in Mesa Machas Malacha. To understand all this, Meir Rabbi say, we have to say a Chiddush. And this Chiddush is not mine, the Chiddush is in the Yeshivas, in Simarish Tzadi Aleph, and in the Malbim and Parashas Mishpatim, and by Emerson, it's a Mufurish HaRashba. What we know until today is that there's 3 levels of Shmira. There's a Shem Chinam, who pays for Pshia. There's a Shem Socha, who pays for Gneva Vaveda. And there's a Shoel, who pays even for Einsin. Simply understood, these are 3 different levels of responsibility. You can be Mekabel Achrayos, there's a lower level, a medium level, and a highest level of responsibility. Says the Rashba, it's true in the case of Shem Chinam and Shem Socha. There's a lower level and a higher level. The Shoel pays for Einsin, for whatever happens. That's not an undertaking of responsibility, that anything that happens to you, any loss that will be incurred on your part, I will pay for it. That's not what a Shoel is. That's not the agreement, says the Rashba. What is a Shoel? A Shoel is as follows. I come to you and I want to borrow your item, free of charge. In the world of business and commerce, that doesn't exist. If you use my thing, you've got to pay me. Usage demands payment. If I come and I say I want to borrow it and use it and not pay for it, this is looked at in the eyes of the Torah as if I bought it off you. The fact that I have rights to use it today, as if I was the complete balabos, I can use it like the balabos. Usage like the balabos, says the Rashba, creates in the eyes of the Torah as if I bought it from you and I've got to replace it. Not because I'm looking after your item and I accept full responsibility of whatever happens to your item. The shoel has to pay whatever happens because the shoel, by virtue of the fact that it's kol hanor shaloi, that you get all the rights that the owner of this item had, that's called in the eyes of the Torah, you became the new Bailim. So if you became the new Bailim means as if you bought it off him. The Torah obligates you to pay whatever happens as if you bought it off him. HaRav a nasa kilu shaloi, and therefore you've got to pay. That's the way the Yeshivas in Reish Tzadi Aleph explains the chiyuvim of a shoel, the malbim in Parashas Mishpatim, and we said it's be'emes mufurish in the Rashba. The Ramban asks a kasha. There's a din in Dinei HaTorah called an asmachta. I undertook to do something reasonable, something far-fetched is called an asmachta. If I told you I'll look after your camera, and if I drop it and I'm a pesheya, I'll pay, that's a reasonable thing to undertake. Gneva Vaveda is a reasonable thing to undertake. I said that even if an oinus happens, I will pay you. If a nuclear bomb drops, I'll pay you, says the Ramban. That's an asmachta. Nobody in his right mind really means that when he says that. So how can he be chayiv? Says the Rashba, it's not an undertaking to pay. The Torah looks at a shoel as if you bought it off him. You bought it off him. You've got to pay because you bought it off him. A pshia, kavachayim is chayiv. Even a whatever happens to it, he has to pay. Sorry? Say again.
An owner does not get reimbursed when he destroys his own item.
No, the other way around. Because I took it off you, so therefore, it's as if I bought it off you. If I bought it off you, then whatever happens is I've got to pay you. I've already bought it off you.
So why you put them
Frektalanden, if it's kilo, I bought it off you. So why you put them made a dick. Azoi frekt sameach. What's the pshat? Zog the Rashba, there's two Rashbas. There's one Rashba in Bob Metzia Tzadi Vov, and another one in Bob Metzia Lamed Vov.
Maybe because that's Mekach Toris. You bought it off of him.
You're saying more lomdish than me. More lomdish than me. I'm avoiding a mixus to what you said. Zog the Sameach, be'emes on a shoel is chayev ki'ilu you bought it. Chayev, hold over. So why is there Patur of Meisa Machas Malacha? Can't be like the Ramban learns. The Pshat is Azoi. Why does the Torah consider it to be as if I bought it off you? Because I got all rights as if I am the owner. Says the Sameach, the mechayev of a shoyl is the fact that I borrowed it from you, and we agreed that whatever I don't need to pay you, not for the usage, and not for anything which derives from the fact that I use it. That coverage, that patur, that I don't need to pay you for anything which is related to the use, that's what makes me into the shoyl as if I bought it off you and I've got to pay for everything. So you can't say once I've got to pay for everything, therefore I should pay for machmas malacha. It's the fact that you are potter from paying for misa machmas malacha that creates the chiyuv of the shoyl. The reason why the shoyl pays is because he got a patur of misa machmas malacha. Because I don't need to pay you for the use. Because I don't need to pay you if it dies machmas malacha, that creates, in the eyes of the Torah, it's as if I bought it off you. So Meisa Machas Malacha is not a patur. Meisa Machas Malacha is the mechayev. The fact that Meisa Machas Malacha is included in the dinim of a shoyl that he doesn't need to pay, therefore everything else he has to pay for. Says the Ur Sameach. Now everything is moiridik. Says the Ur Sameach. The K'tzos fragt der Kasha, I borrowed the Sefer, steht in Mishnah Berurah, steht in Sefer Hasidim, that you've got to pay. I borrowed the Sefer, something happened, the Sefer Torah, Rahman al-Tzlan got burnt in near Oz, you've got to pay. Steht in Sefer Hasidim. Fragt the K'tzos, Mitzvah Avla Holistim. That's a fact. The Gemara says Mitzvah Avla Holistim. So therefore, I don't have an Oz Tashmish. And if I don't have an Oz Tashmish, I'm like the guy who borrowed the Chamoir, Shala, Leiroisbo. I only want to be seen as if I'm a rich man because I have the chamor. Says the Ur Sameach, when the Gemara says Shala Leiroisbo is potter, it means because of what the Rashba say. If an owner of a chamor has a right to use the chamor and to be seen with the chamor, and I get less than the owner, I have a right Leiroisbo. But you didn't give me the rights to use the chamor, so I have less than the balabos. Less than the balabos, then I'm not a shoyl. Then you can't say I got kol hanor shaloi. You can't say it's as if I bought it off you. If it's as if I bought it off you, I'll get exactly the same as the owner of this thing. The K'tzos understood shala leiroisbo is because you don't have an os tashmish. So mitzvah avla, you don't have an os tashmish. Says you don't need an os tashmish. You need to be a substitute of the owner. Oy ba'azoi zokter samech. You know why the Mishnah Berurah says. You know why the Sefer Chasidim el Rabbi Machzah say that when you borrow a sefer, you've got to pay. Mitzvah avla. Says the Samech. It doesn't make a difference to me whether you did or you didn't have an or. You need to have whatever the owner had. The owner of a sefer learns in the sefer. Does the Torah consider that to be a hanor? No, because mitzvah avla didn't. So whatever the owner had with his mitzvah avla didn't, I got exactly the same rights as the owner. Says Ur Sameach, once I got the same rights as the owner, it makes no difference to me whether it's called a nos tashmish, not called a nos tashmish, mitzvah avla no, yes, makes no difference. Shala lerois is only because I got less than the balabos. If the balabos and me got the same, I've got to pay. That's why the Mishnah Berurah says that for a sefer you got to pay, and there's no time of mitzvah avla. Now we'll go back to the Rosh and the Ramah. The Ramah says, Meisa Machas Malacha, even if it didn't stumble on the fact that I put on a heavy pekel, I took it to this place, it's included Meisa Machas Malacha. Frek the Rosh. Meisa Machas Malacha is because I have a tain on you, the mashal. You gave me something, you said it's able to do the job, but it wasn't able to do the job. So it's your fault. Therefore I'm potter. It's not your fault that the Sefer Torah burnt in near Etzion, in near Oz. So you got to pay. As I frek the Rosh. What's the Ramah's understanding? The Ramah understands Meisa Machas Malacha is not like the Ramban says that Meisa Machas Malacha is because it's your fault. You should never have lent it to me. You didn't give me something able to do the job. That's not the vort of Meisa Machas Malacha. The vort of Meisa Machas Malacha is like the Sameach says, and like the Rashba says. Meisa Machas Malacha is because I borrowed it, and you gave me all rights as if I am the owner. You said that I don't need to pay you for rental. I don't need to pay you for anything related to the work that I borrowed it for. If I don't need to pay you for anything related to to the work here, then I became a substitute of the Bailim. And if I became a substitute of the Bailim, I now have to pay for any oinsen that happened, because it's as if I bought it off you. I become a shoyl. I have full responsibility, not midin responsibility, but as if I bought it off you. Says the Ramah, Meisa Machas Malacha is not because it's your fault. Meisa Machas Malacha is because we're treating you as if you are the Bailim. If we're treating you as if you are the Bailim, that means you don't need to pay rental, and you don't need to pay for any hefsed which is incurred due to what you borrowed it for. You borrowed it in order to take to Nir Oz. That was the agreement. That's included in the Ptur of Meisa Machas Malacha. So according to the Avona of the Rashba in the Din of Meisa Machas Malacha, we understand on the one hand the Sameach, the Mishnah Brura, and all those who say that by a sefer you've got to pay, even though it's a mitzvah d'avrahonis nitnu. And on the other hand, we understand the opinion of the Ramah, who says that you're potter because this is also called Meisa Machas Malacha. So far, so good. I want to add two things, if you don't mind. Sorry, I'll have to get back to you. Two things I'd like to add. Number one, the Bis Yosef, we have it over here, brings a rosh, which can actually be relevant to our story as well. I borrowed something, an oinus happened, and as a machloikas, it's unclear whether it was a Meisa Machas Malacha. You pay or you don't pay. So the rosh says, you don't know whether it was a Meisa Machas Malacha, you got to pay. Bis Yosef Shai is Gewalt. You don't know whether the guy is chayiv to pay. If you don't know whether you pay, there's a rule b'chol ha'Torah kulu which says, how can it be when a sofek of Meisa Machas Malacha you should have to pay? As I fragt the Bis Yosef on the rosh. What's the answer? The rosh l'shetosoi, how does he understand Meisa Machas Malacha? I borrowed a chamoir. The chamoir wasn't able to do the job that I borrowed it for. It's your fault, the mashal, for lending me a chamoir that couldn't do the job. So the way the rosh understands, really the shoyl is chayav for every oinus in the world. If you have a taina on the mashal that it's his fault, you can wriggle out of your chiyuvim. Your chiyuv is in all matzavim. But if you have a taina that it's the fault of the guy who lent it to you, then you can pat yourself from your chiyuv. Says the rosh, if that's the Havana, I borrowed, I have a mechayev, something happened, I got to pay. We don't know whether it was a Meisa Machas Malacha, means we don't know whether I have a taina on the mashal. So you have a vaday mechayev, and you don't know whether you have a taina on the mashal. You better pay. Says the rosh, you got to pay. The Bis Yosef understands Meisa Machas Malacha the way the Rashba understands, that I patted the shoyl from paying anything to do with the usage of this purpose that he borrowed it for. If we don't know whether what happened is to do with that usage, in other words, we don't know whether there's a mechayev. If you don't know whether there was a mechayev, says the Bis Yosef, then you got to pay. Then your potter become because of hamoitzav re'er lavarai. Now comes a very interesting osofa. This fellow Amotz comes back to the Rav. He says to the Rav, I'm not a Talmid Chacham, but I understand, you tell me, if you came to the Beis Din will say, there's two opinions, the Ramah, Beis Din won't force me to pay. But tell me, Rafia Emes, should I be paying? So the Rav starts saying to him, there's a machlokas, a Ramah and a Rosh. You ought to be paying. Lefia Emes, you ought to be paying. Lefnim Mishulzadin, you should be paying. Then Amot says, but I have a svek over here that I shouldn't pay. One is a machlokas whether this is called Mesa Machas Malacha, which is true. Two, we have a Ketzos HaChoishin who says that because of mitzvah avlahonis nitnu and shala leroisba, I should be potter. But there is Sameach and the Mishmuro, oh, Nishtazay, so I should have a svek to be potter. Says the Rav, svek doesn't make you potter. There's a machlokas on this, a machlokas on that. You got to be. Now comes the Chiddush, Rabbi say. If we're right in the Havon of the Sugya, then I feel that the Rav says to Amot, there's no reason in the world for you to pay. None whatsoever. Why? Because the way we are learning, these two shilas are interdependent. If you understand like the Someach and like the Rashba, that the din of Mesa Machas Malacha is a shoyel is chayav, as if you became the Bailim. But the agreement is anything to do with the usage is potter. So according to that Havana, true, there's no patur of mitzvahs lav lahonis nitnu and shala l'roisba. That's true. But the din is going to come out like the Ramah, that you're potter because of Mesa Machas Malacha. You agreed to use this in near Oz. You're going to be potter because of Mesa Machas Malacha. Elamai, maybe the pshat in shoyel is like the Ramban learns, and like the Rosh learns. That what? That Mesa Machas Malacha, the din is that you're only potter for something which really happened because it's Yenam's fault. But if you hold like him, then you're going to hold like the Ketzos, that when you borrow the Sefer, you're potter because mitzvah avlahonis nitnu and shala l'roisba. So according to both Havonas in the Mechayev of a shoyel, either way this fellow is going to be potter. He'll either be potter because by a sefer you're not chayav in the first place because mitzvah avlahonis nitnu, and if you'll tell me that you're going to pay even though mitzvah avlahonis nitnu, then the din is going to be, this is called Mesa Machas Malacha, and it'll be potter entirely. I want to finish with one sentence in Drush. We learned before from Reb Chetzkel Kuzmir and from the Ramchal and from the Rambam Hilchos Melachim that a person who works on Yiras Shamayim and he gives HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yiras Shamayim, Mo Hashem Shoyel Meimach, he can get a higher level of Shmira. Not just a Shmira like a Shem Chinom or like a Shem Asocha. He can get a Shmira like a Shoyel. The way the Nesivos and the Malbim and the Rashba learn, what is it in of a shoyel? Not just that the shoyel takes a greater responsibility. A shoyel is as if he bought it and it became his. So when the pasuk says, Mo Hashem shoyel mimoch, kiim le'iro, if you give your Shemaim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not just that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you a higher level of protection. It's as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu bought you and you became HaKadosh Baruch Hu's and you belong to him, and Mamela is going to look after you. The Rebbe should bench and protect all of us. And there should be no tzoros in Klal Yisrael, or no shilas like this in Klal Yisrael, and Mashiach should come very soon. We'd have a mincha right now.
So I'm still hung up on the